the related companies leading the reimagination.
And I wanted to be part of that electric kind of transition and be part of it ground up. You know, that was just a thrilling opportunity for me, and it's been a 5.5 year ride to get to this point where we are now.
That's awesome. Awesome. Interesting segue to the next question I have for you. So with a growing list of rival electric cars, along with traditional automakers, some of which you've worked for, who are also bringing out new electric cars in the market, how does Lucid stand apart from other electric car companies, both traditional and sort of new companies that we're seeing come in the market? How does Lucid stand apart from a design perspective?
Yeah, I mean, we have a unique opportunity because we've taken a luxury position. So we're really about bringing the first truly luxury products to the marketplace that are electric. And so that's a unique opportunity. We have amazing advanced technologies in our drivetrain, our battery, our inverter. That gives us incredible efficiency along with amazing performance. And we're able to package specifically around the electric drivetrain to optimize our vehicles for space and cargo and overall efficiency. And that is unique. You know, most of the electric vehicles coming to market, with the exception of Teslas, are on platforms that have to share between internal combustion as well as electric. And by doing so, you don't really end up with an optimized vehicle, I would call it vehicle architecture or occupant packaging. The other big point is just being able to start from scratch. You know, you have to imagine that the transition to electrification is so profound. Everything about the car, ownership of the car, servicing the car, selling the car, everything about it changes. And as a result, being a brand that is only doing electric vehicles is a huge advantage for us, where traditional brands have to continue for the foreseeable future. And when I say that, I mean about 10 to 15 years, they're going to be selling internal combustion cars alongside some of their newer offerings. And, you know, how they communicate that to their potential customers becomes a real challenge. And so we get to focus all of our effort on being the world's premier EV brand. And I see that as a big advantage. And naturally, that translates into the design of the vehicle, that really speaking the language of technology, electrification, efficiency, aerodynamics, and of course, luxury.
Yeah, that's very, very interesting. I mean, one of the things that struck me about the car, right as we opened the showroom here, as you all opened the showroom at Rosemary Square, is, I mean, it's just amazing how you have that sensibility of luxury right out of the gate when you see the car. And then when you start looking at all the details, everything from the sort of the leather inside and the stitching to the spaciousness in the car to the term that I learned, the frunk in the front.
Yeah, the good old frunk.
The good old frunk, being a large space in there. It really feels very luxurious, and I think it's interesting how Lucid as a brand is differentiating from Tesla and other providers as being a true luxury car.
Yeah.
So that's interesting.
And it's interesting you say that, because, I mean, let's be honest, luxury is kind of a relative term. To some people, luxury means opulence and comfort and big spaces and flashiness. And to others, luxury is a more minimalist, high-tech thing. And we've really tried to find that balance between what I would consider a traditional opulent luxury on one hand, which I don't really see Lucid playing at that, but at the same time, brands like Tesla are quite minimalist, but maybe lacking some touch and feel and comfort and so on. Finding that balance between something that's super high tech, minimalist and sleek on one end, and then at the other end has a nice tactile quality, great materials with wood and leather and or synthetic leathers if you desire. And then, of course, tying it all together with technology and aesthetics, making sure that the look of the vehicle is fitting to its price point and hopefully appealing to that target customer. Getting that balance is challenging, but we've tried to define our own space in the market.
It's interesting you say that about luxury, and we work with a lot of luxury brands. I've been studying luxury for my whole career, and you're right, sort of that finding that balance of sort of being understated and also kind of having the sort of sleekness to it. The brand that comes to mind that does that phenomenally well is the most valuable company in the world, Apple.
Exactly. Exactly.
They really nail it, right? Because it's,
Yeah.
if you look at an iPhone, or if you look at an iPad, or a MacBook Air, for example, they're pretty understated products in terms of their elegance. But then when you touch them, you feel them, you use them, you get that real sense of luxury for the product,
Yeah.
and it's pretty incredible. Very interesting analogy between Apple and Lucid. So,
No question. I think it's a great example, and I think that there is a set of modern consumers that obviously have the means to spend and reward themselves with a higher cost product, or a luxury product, but don't necessarily want to show off in a really over the top way. They just want
yeah.
to make an intelligent choice that's rewarding to own. It's an amazing experience. It's an amazing aesthetic, but it's not necessarily one that's screaming at you. And finding that balance between something that's still bold and still recognizable, but is somewhat understated at the same time. I think that is, for many new luxury consumers, that's a desirable place.
Absolutely, absolutely. So tell us a little bit about who or what were the inspirations behind the Lucid Air design?
Yeah, I mean, when I go back to the very beginning of the project, we had a lot of conversations about how do we position this vehicle. Is it an electric Rolls Royce? Is it a BMW fighter? What are we creating here? And who's the customer? And a lot of that focus came up about the customer. It's like, well, how do they decorate their home? How do they dress? How do they typically present themselves, and so on? Because we think, a vehicle is an amazing personal expression, especially a luxury vehicle. So you have to make sure that it's saying the right things. And so we always came back to technology, efficiency, aerodynamics, performance. So the car has to communicate those things through its design. It has to communicate technology, say, through its lighting. We put a lot of energy into the exterior lighting technology, that it's very minimal and sleek and modern. The efficiency of the design, a lot of that comes from its aerodynamics. So we wanted to make sure that there's a sleekness to the car, almost an aircraft-like quality. I talk a lot about aircraft design, both historically as well as current aircraft design, trying to bring that aesthetic into the car, minimize all the air openings and vents, because an electric car needs cooling, but nothing like a gasoline vehicle. The cooling is actually quite minimal. So we're able to minimize all those openings and create this seamless aesthetic that, in my opinion, communicates aerodynamics, communicates efficiency, as well as speed and performance. And so those were the types of the things we were using as inspiration, but it's really a form and function inspiration. We needed those things to make it work well, and aesthetically it can be quite pleasing. So finding that balance between form and function is a huge priority for us.
Yeah, well said, well said. So we're honored and proud that Lucid Motors chose Rosemary Square as a studio location, and I've been told that the studio here has been recognized as one of the most successful openings for the company, which we're proud of and excited for Lucid on. And the design of the studio is remarkable, just like the car. You didn't take the design of the space lightly, which we love. We're as real estate developers, we think about all space and details around space and experiences in every space, whether that's in the public areas, in the walkable areas, within the stores, within the restaurants, within the hotels, within the office lobbies, the residential spaces. So it's interesting to see kind of, a car company, a brand, a very progressive brand, Lucid Motors, in the electric car space, really kind of think about details around a showroom and showroom design. So can you talk a little bit about how you and the team thought through the design process for the design of the studios?
Absolutely. A huge part of our the launch of Lucid Motors and, of course, Lucid Air is tied to our retail experience and what we call our retail studios. And so we needed that space to be very inviting, of course, communicate the feeling of the brand. And the feeling of the brand is something we always call heart and mind. And it's that balance between something, in this case, an environment that's warm and inviting, almost like a living space. We wanted people to be able to, if they're, in the case of Rosemary Square, they might just be out casually shopping, they might be going to the gym, and then we want them to just casually stop by and take a look. And so we wanted the space to feel warm and inviting and different than, let's say, a typical automotive dealership type environment, which is often kind of a little bit more cold and sterile or intimidating. And this was meant to be like a cool lounge space that you could come and join. Conversely, on the mind side of the studios, we wanted to have all of our technologies on display, our battery, our motor, our inverter, and all the materials of the different interior trim packages, exterior colors, and of course our virtual reality platform where people can configure the vehicle either online at home or in the retail space, and then they can put on the virtual goggles and experience their chosen trim and colors inside a virtual space, which is a phenomenal experience. And to my knowledge, we're the first to ever pull this off, both online in our configurator as well as our retail space.
No, that's really interesting. I mean, we have all the luxury car guys and brands here in West Palm Beach. You may know, right? I
Yes.
mean, you name it, every brand.
It's a huge market. Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, no, it's been a very successful market for many years because of the wealth, around West Palm. But
Absolutely.
and I've been to many of these dealerships, and while some of them are very impressive, right? I always get the sense when I go into one of these showrooms that it's not as inviting. They're huge showrooms with a lot of space, and not as inviting and not as much of a personalized experience. So I found it really exciting when you walk into Lucid, which I've walked into many times myself and with colleagues and people visiting. You feel right out of the gate, right as you get in that door and you're greeted, you feel like it's a very personalized experience, which is unique, right? Because a lot of these other dealers have not so personalized experiences, and they feel kind of massive, even though they could be really beautiful and luxurious inside. So
yeah, it's one of those things it's as much about people learning about Lucid for the first time. In many cases, people are finding out about us for the first time, or they've learned a little bit online, they've checked out our website, and they just want to stop by and touch and feel and see things in person. And it's a quite unique situation for a car brand, because since there aren't that many new car brands that have that opportunity to make a first impression. In most cases, there's very little preconceived idea of who Lucid is. So that showroom really has to be a nice place to visit. Yeah.
My philosophy in life is you never have a second chance to make a first impression. You guys certainly are doing a great job at that. So I appreciate that. So you mentioned something earlier that I did want to talk about, and that's this whole notion of virtual reality. I noticed that you have this virtual reality experience, which I haven't tried. I just reminded myself. I was going there and it was sort of in and out, but I have to try it. But how has the virtual reality experience, how is it elevating your customer experience, and how do you envision continuing to use virtual reality to enhance the Lucid brand experience?
Yeah, I mean, obviously with the virtual, the platform that we launched is the foundation for our online configurator. So what we did was we designed an online configurator that then could be viewed either at home on your PC, on your phone, on your laptop, or in the retail space on this virtual platform. Now, in the future, I think you will see more and more people having virtual headsets at home. So that's one thing that'll be possible. People will be able to do that virtual experience in their home space. But more important than that is where I see the technology going and the level of engagement that we can achieve through these types of configurator and virtual platforms, where as we add more features to the car, we add more detail, more different variations of trim, color, accessories, and just derivatives of the vehicle, the Lucid Air. You'll be able to experience all of those things, perhaps before we even get them into the showroom. you'll be able to experience them in the virtual. That's exciting because it gets people excited about our product, and hopefully they place an order. But it's also a great opportunity for us as the designers to get feedback on these ideas and what people are configuring the most, or what is appealing to them. And so I see it as a real-time kind of exchange of what's appealing to our customers.
Absolutely. And when are the cars actually expected to be here, for example, in West Palm Beach, on site, so people could start test driving the cars in person?
That's still going to be the second half of the year. I can't get any more specific about those details, but I can tell you I rode and drove some of our latest pre-production vehicles, and it's pretty exciting. So we're getting close, but right now we're still saying second half of the year.
Yeah, I've been watching all the videos of your founder, drive the car through New York City,
Yeah.
and all these different landscapes, and it looks pretty amazing. So it's going to be exciting to actually try it out.
The car, I can tell you, the car is very impressive. I was Friday, we did some back-to-back testing of our latest vehicles, and together with some of our like what you would probably consider some of our competitors. And I can tell you the vehicle's very, very impressive.
That's impressive. What do you think about the future of autonomous vehicles, and are there plans for Lucid to be autonomous in the future?
I think it's inevitable that we're going to reach a full level of autonomy at some point in the future. The speculative nature of the technology and the amount of kind of technical and legislative safety hurdles that still need to be kind of overcome, I still tend to feel it's a bit farther out in the future. Of course, we're striving for a level 2, 2.5, and hopefully eventually a level 3 autonomous capability. But I think to get to full autonomy, where you can, not ever have to worry about driving, I think we're 5 to 10 years still on that technology personally. But let's see. It's inevitable. It's coming. I think it's something that will be great for mobility, and it'll bring a lot more safety to vehicles, and even help with a lot of our congestion and kind of just general mobility challenges that we face as a society.
Yeah. By the way, 5 to 10 years isn't very long, so.
It's really not, but if you think about, I think if I think about when I first joined Lucid in 2015, there was so much of speculation and, oh yeah, we're going to be fully autonomous by 2018, 2019, 2020, and we're nowhere near that right now. That said, the technology and the computing capability, the optical technology with the lidars and the radars and the cameras, the evolution of the software to manage it all, it's all moving very quickly. But I still think, safety is paramount, and we don't want to put people's lives at risk, and so that's something where I think everybody's taking a little bit more cautious approach, and there's still a lot to be worked out with just general traffic and how we handle vehicles that are autonomous and other vehicles that are maybe semi or not autonomous at all. They all have to coexist on the same roads, and so that presents a lot of challenges.
Yeah, no, totally agree. So last question before we wrap up. Can you give us any hints or tell us about some other experimental projects you're working on the design side with Lucid? I mean, obviously nothing confidential, but some exciting things for the consumer to see or know is coming post the Lucid Air? Yeah.
Well, we have talked and teased a bit on our Gravity SUV program, and that's represents probably the vast majority of the work of my team, because the design group tends to kind of start working on those programs early on, and that development is moving along really well. I'm very excited about the project. I think that, even though the sedan segment is still a very popular segment, the SUV, CUV segments, especially in luxury, are continuing to grow at a much higher pace. So we're super excited to bring that vehicle on the road. I can promise you a few things, that it'll have the Lucid design DNA, so it should be instantly recognizable as a Lucid product and sit comfortably next to the Lucid Air. And we'll put a big priority on the same values that Air has, and that's in the areas of space, interior space, overall vehicle efficiency and range, and of course incredible performance. So you can stay tuned for that. It's still a lot of work to do there, and can't speak to timing at the moment.
Well, I can tell you all are not going to release something until, it's fully baked and you feel really comfortable that it's ready to go.
Yeah,
So,
it's very important. I mean, we work quick. That's the good news. But it also has to be, the product has to be fully matured and refined and ready to put in customers' hands. So we will make sure of that.
great. Well, Derek, this was a great conversation. I really appreciate it. In fact, I have to tell you that I'm getting more excited about buying a Lucid after talking to you. So certainly sort of your enthusiasm emanates and, gets me excited about, the future of electric cars and the future of Lucid. And, certainly we're very grateful that Lucid chose Rosemary Square and has been a successful location. Look forward to future collaborations, and thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Bye. See ya.
Take care.